Good morning, Peterborough. My name is Jim Tubb, and it is time for your Sports Break broadcasted through the facilities of Trent Radio on 92.7 C Triple FM here in Peterborough, Canada. This show, of course, can be streamed online at trentradio.ca, or you can follow what we're talking about on Twitter at SportsBreakTR. The weather outside today here in Peterborough is -9. We got a fair bit of snow last night. I think they were calling for like 10 or so centimeters. I don't know how much they were calling for. I don't know how much we got. It was enough trouble on the driveway this morning, I'll tell you that. But I'd say winter's here. It gave us Remembrance Day, and then winter's here. And that's pretty much, I guess we got to get used to it. And I don't know how many days it is till Christmas. People can start counting now. But I'd say it's still a BEA beautiful day to talk about sports, ladies and gentlemen. And it's actually a beautiful day outside. Sitting behind me here, the sun is shining. The snow is like on the ground. People are shoveling. It's just a great day. How can you not love that? And how can you not love sports? And there's a lot to talk about with sports this past week, in the week since our show last week. A lot has happened. Leafs won 3 in a row and then lost two straight. One in a shootout, of course, to Philadelphia on Saturday. And then they lost against Chicago on Sunday. Blue Jays have done nothing. The Raptors are on their West Coast tour. We're going to talk about that later. They got to play Kawhi last night. Great game. But that's not what's news in sports right now. And that's not even what's news across the country right now. I was going to talk about, Gary Bettman said the Olympics probably aren't going to. They're huge. They're extremely disruptive. That was a great transition. They're extremely disruptive to the NHL season. I wouldn't bet on seeing Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid on the same line at the Olympics or anything like that. I think we are far past the NHL going to the Olympics, which sucks because they are the best athletes in the world at that sport. And we don't get to see that in the Olympics, but it has become a money and a business thing. And the NHL doesn't really see how they win sending the players there. And the IIHF doesn't see how they win by having NHL players there. They have to pay a lot of money for insurance premiums, and so does the NHL. And if you're the NHL, we've seen it in the past with John Tavares got hurt when he was playing in the Olympics. So it sucks and all that Canada loses that player, but when he comes back, I know the Islanders at the time were like, well, what do we do now? Like, we just lost our starting centerman. And I think that's a huge part of it. And, like, the NHL doesn't get a lot of revenue from the Olympics. As far as I know, don't quote me on that. But that's where that's at. The next Winter Olympics, of course, aren't until 2022 in Beijing. So there's a lot of time to see. But, yeah, we'll see. I know, like, it'd be awesome to see Canada, it'd be awesome to see NHL players in the Winter Olympics. Because, like I said, it truly is the best of the best. And how don't you want to watch the best players in the sport play? Like, that's just the way I see it. But, again, that's not the biggest news. And I'm sure now, if you don't live under a rock, if you love hockey on Saturday Night Hockey, whether you're a Leafs fan, Habs fan, Edmonton fan, Pittsburgh, LA, whoever you cheer for, maybe you don't cheer for hockey and you just watch it a bit, or maybe you don't give a crap about hockey, this is still news. You might not know who the name is, but his name is kind of synonymous with hockey and Canada, and it's Don Cherry. This is no breaking news. Like, Don Cherry's been fired from Sportsnet following Saturday night on his famous Coach's Corner. He made some comments. I'm not going to say them. I'm not going to do his comments justice because I don't believe in his comments. And I know that a lot of people, as soon as you say that, fight that. And because there was a lot to his comments that are being forgotten. And there's a reason he got fired, and it wasn't because he said that more people should wear poppies. Because I agree. I didn't wear a poppy as much as I should have, and I feel bad for that. Because you should. It's a way to reflect and remember those veterans who fought for your freedom today. That's true. Don Cherry was right about that. That you should wear this poppy to remember those who fought for you and your freedoms and to be able to do whatever you want, to express your own opinion and to live freely. That's why you wear it. To respect those who died so you could live on. We got it. But you can't single out a part of the population who you personally believe wasn't wearing poppies. And that's what Don Cherry did. It's 2019. You can't say that on national broadcast, especially when there's people gunning for your head, who they've been there for years. That doesn't change anything. I don't know why I added that, but you just can't say that. You can think it. You shouldn't. Never. I don't know why you would. But if you have to think it, if you think that's right in your head, you keep it to yourself. Very early on in our development ages, kindergarten, grade 1, you learn, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it. And I know this sounds silly, but come on. Now, you think Don Cherry, he makes fun of Europeans, he made fun of French Canadians, and I've made that joke. It's funny, kind. It was funny then. But I'm not French Canadian, and I'm not European, so I find that funny, I guess. But what comes out of it now is he is he's making light of what he believes are immigrants and new Canadians. This term we've used to describe these people. And even I just divided them. They are Canadians. I don't know why the new was on there, but they're Canadians. And Don believes, saying walking downtown Toronto, people aren't wearing poppies. And he decides that these people who are immigrants, in his opinion, aren't wearing poppies. Which I don't know how Don Cherry knows that these people are immigrants. These people, what I mean was that the people he's talking about are immigrants or new Canadians, whatever. I don't know how he knows that, whether he asked them, whether they had a sign on the front of them that said, I just immigrated to Canada in this year. Maybe they were born in Canada. Maybe their parents were born in Canada. I don't know why that had to be said by Don. And for people to think that he shouldn't be fired for this is just as absurd as the comments he made. If he would have said, I think everyone should wear poppies, respect, and left it at that. I think all Canadians should wear poppies. I think all Canadian people should wear poppies. But once you go and say, you people that come to it, once you single out and divide this country, you can't do that. And that's what costs him a job. And that's what people are in uproar about. Sportsnet, of course, released their PR, how they were announcing it from President Bart Yabsley. And it said, sports brings people together. It unites us, not divides us. Following further discussions with Don Cherry after Saturday night's broadcast, it has been decided it is the right time for him to immediately step down. During the broadcast, he made divisive remarks that do not represent our values or what we stand for. Don is synonymous with hockey and has played an integral role in growing the game for over the past 40 years. We would like to thank Don for his contributions to hockey and sports broadcasting in Canada. And he's right. Don Cherry and Coach's Corner have been a huge part of Saturday nights all across this country. A lot of NHLers have grown up watching Don Cherry, and it's a dream for them to meet Don Cherry. It's a dream for anyone to meet Don Cherry. I've had the pleasure of meeting Don Cherry. It's great. He is one of the most famous Canadians. But you can't say that. You can, like I said, if you think it's right in your mind, think it. Whatever. You're wrong. That is my opinion, but it is also a lot of people's opinions. The general population, that you can't be like this. You can't divide a nation. And he did. And it's as simple as that. You just can't say this stuff in 2019. I know this isn't sports, but this is the face of hockey in Canada. You can argue it's Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid. It is. They're the player face. But when you think of Saturday night hockey, you think of Hockey Night in Canada, and you think after the first intermission, you're going to see Don Cherry. He's going to rant about something. He's going to show some clips. He's going to tell Ron McLean to shut up, and he's going to put his thumbs up. And that's hockey on Saturday nights. And that's going to change now. We no longer have this on our Saturday nights. I don't think he's ever going to come back to Hockey Night in Canada. I think that would set a terrible precedent. And I don't think Sportsnet wants him back. I think this is a thing that's been bubbling for a while. There, of course, was talks over the summer that they wanted him gone. But this was something, whether they wanted him gone or not, he had to leave. He had to be fired. It sounds like they tried to make it worded like he stepped down. There's no way he stepped down, because Don Cherry didn't even try to apologize. He said, I meant like, we'll try to find it here. But he essentially said, like, I'm not stepping down. This is my, like he believed what he said was true, and he doesn't want to go back on it. He said to the Toronto Sun, the problem is if I have to watch everything I say, it is in Coach's Corner. Well, he said, this is Cherry, to keep my job, I cannot be turned into a tamed robot. And I don't know, that's just Don Cherry. Like, he's not going to fight back, or he's going to fight back. He's never going to agree that what he said was wrong. And I don't think we'll ever get that from Don Cherry. And if it is, I don't know how sincere it'll be, but he'll never say that. It is also because Don Cherry is an 85-year-old man, and there's nothing against that. But usually the older you get, the more set in your ways and stubborn you are, and you're not going to change from that. Now, maybe there's some people are. I personally know a couple people that were 80 and like that, and they would listen to anything, and they would take your side. Were they the most kind to people that weren't their race? No. And that's just the way they grew up. That's what was set inside them. That's how they developed. That's how they learned. And you can't change that in people. But now we can. Just the way, because to them, those people were different. They didn't see them a lot. And when they did, I guess it wasn't positive. I don't know. Didn't grow up then. But today, in 2019, there's no longer a division in the population. There shouldn't be. Whether it's color, nationality, whatever. We're Canadian. And it's as simple as that. And I think Don Cherry didn't realize that. I don't know if it was because he was 85 or what. But this is hockey night in Canada. And once you start dividing Canada up, you shouldn't speak for hockey night in Canada. You shouldn't speak for hockey. And you shouldn't speak for Canada. These are just my thoughts. People could argue against it. The only thing you can't argue is Don Cherry no longer works for Hockey Night in Canada, and it is simply because he said, and he divided this nation, which you just can't do. One thing caught up with this is Ron MacLean, and I didn't think about it when I watched the broadcast live. Sometimes I usually don't catch Saturday night hockey, but I watch this. And you watch it, and at first I was like, man, Don, you really shouldn't have said that. And then you think about it, and you rewatch it, because it gets uploaded to YouTube. It is taken down now from Hockey Night in Canada. But you sit there, and you're like, wow, he really shouldn't have said that. And then you look at the other person who's sitting there, and that's Ron MacLean. And you think, well, like, Ron didn't defend him. And, yeah, it is a fair argument. Like, Ron MacLean didn't go like, oh, Don, I don't think we should have said that. But on a live broadcast, and they if I remember correctly, they went to commercial almost right away. Believe it or not, like they should have. If you're Ron MacLean, you don't have time to come in and be like, oh, I don't think Don means it like that. One, because Don could be like, oh, I mean it exactly like that. And then you're screwed, because Don just double down. But like Ron MacLean had no time to get in there, and maybe he should have. And he ended it with a thumbs up, as they always do. I don't know. I'm trying to defend Ron MacLean because I believe Ron MacLean more in when he says that, like, I didn't mean to do it. He did an apology. Of course, Saturday night is Hockey Night in Canada, as we know. And then Sunday is Rogers Hometown Hockey, where they travel across the nation and address all of its people in small communities and do a broadcast there. And Ron MacLean, of course, is the face of that. He has been since it started. And he felt the need at the beginning of his show to issue an apology. Here it is. It's a minute long. But here's Ron MacLean's apology about the Saturday night Hockey Night in Canada broadcast.
Welcome to Rogers Hometown Hockey this evening from Welland, Ontario. Before we commence with the celebration of the game here, I wanted to address what happened last night on Hockey Night in Canada. Don Cherry made remarks which were hurtful, discriminatory, which were flat out wrong. We at Sportsnet have apologized. It certainly doesn't stand for what Sportsnet or Rogers represents. We know diversity is the strength of the country. We see it in the travels with our show and with Hockey Night in Canada. So I owe you an apology, too. That's the big thing that I want to emphasize. I sat there, did not catch it, did not respond. Catherine Tenise, Tsuut'ina First Nation, once said, in any wrongdoing, the real key is recognition and acknowledgement. And I wanted to let you know that first, and then you work on the relationship. So that it isn't divisive, so that something can be a unifying event. Idle No More was a great lesson to all of us. Last night was a really great lesson to Don and me. We were wrong, and I sincerely apologize, and I wanted to thank you for calling me and Don on that last night.
If you listen and if you watch the video, it's up on City News Toronto's Twitter. Ron MacLean looks upset, and I don't think he meant... Like, Don Cherry doubled down and said, I meant everything I said, and I'll stand by that. So you blow him out the window. But Ron MacLean, I don't think he meant to hurt anybody. He never does. And he sat there, and I guess he didn't know what to do. And obviously, you can argue he made the very wrong decision by just sitting there and putting a thumbs up. And he just kind of went along with it, like a lot of people have. And that's the issue with stuff like this. Remarks like this that divide people and single people out to make them feel less is those that just sit around and listen and don't say anything. And that's what makes this hurt and hate speech, is just sitting around and listening, pretending it's not happening because you don't want to step in. Ron MacLean did that whether he meant to or not. A lot of us do that whether we mean to or not. And that's what makes this a problem. And this is now a problem with Don Cherry. I think this is definitely not the end of the story. We're going to hear about this is going to be the part of the hockey season, as it should be. This should not be swept under the rug. And I'm very glad that Sportsnet acted the way they did. They didn't give him another show. They didn't do anything. The only thing I would like to see is Don Cherry no longer gets this platform to apologize. He gets sort of a platform with Twitter, and he gave it up. And he said, I'm not going to apologize. I don't know how he would have handled it on Coach's Corner, considering he was already apologizing for something he had to say. He said the week before about Scott Sabourin that was taken out of context and looked bad on Don Cherry. So coming off of an apology, he said this. I still think he kind of should have maybe had a platform to speak. You could very easily argue that, no, shut him down. He doesn't deserve the platform anymore. And I would agree with that to an extent, that he no longer deserves this platform, which he held for so long. It is just truly sad to see that people still believe this stuff and that we will no longer, that this is how Don Cherry's era and legacy ends in the hockey world. I should say in Hockey Night in Canada's world. I don't know if Don Cherry will get another job in broadcasting. He's not going to get a coaching job. He's too old now. I don't know where this goes from here in regards to Hockey Night in Canada, whether it's Brian Burke or anybody. But that's still not important. I don't know where this goes as the nation, where I hope this doesn't divide people more in those. And it already has. I've seen it on Facebook. People, I stand with Don Cherry, or I can't believe he got fired, or I'm glad he got fired. And that's great. Everyone's allowed their own opinion. That's what this nation's built on. That's what people in the wars fought for, was so we could each have our own opinion and express that and be free to. Great. We love that. That's what makes us Canadian. I think people are missing the point about what Don Cherry has been saying, has said, and they're using that, and they're spreading the message of, I agree with Don Cherry, I stand with Don Cherry, which shows an extreme level of ignorance and hate. Because saying you stand with Don Cherry and those comments means you're standing with the idea of dividing the nation between new people who are immigrating into Canada and those that were born here. Because at one time, you, your grandparents, your family, your friends, at one time, each of us was you people. A part of the population that was singled out by others and made to feel less. Made to feel like they didn't belong. I'm not saying that definitely isn't right. But just because it's happened to you or your ancestors or any friends, family, whatever, doesn't mean you get to pass the torch and keep doing it to other people. Instead, welcome people with new arms. This is our great country. Why not try to share it? I get people aren't going to believe in this, and that's just how it goes. People sometimes can't open their ears and welcome this message of just being human and welcome people. Because these people coming in, they're coming from war-torn countries. They're not coming to Canada for a vacation and just to enjoy Canada. They're coming here for a better life that we all got to experience because we're either born here or our families came here a first generation before us. Second, we're all new to Canada. We didn't start, most people didn't start in Canada. Everyone was an immigrant to Canada at one time. Why divide the nation when we're a nation of immigrants? It's as simple as that. It's just standing with Don Cherry right now is not the right thing to do. And I understand he was the face of Hockey Night in Canada. I miss it. This sucks. Honestly, for me, I have to talk about this. But it doesn't suck as much as being pointed out and made to feel less than everybody else. And it's as simple as that. And standing with Don Cherry and saying, I agree with everything he said, means exactly that. That you're singling out these people that are people and just want to have a good life in Canada, like the rest of us get the chance to. I don't know what more I can say on that. You believe what you want to believe, I guess. I'm not trying to preach down anybody here now, but what he said is not right. Wear a poppy. Yes, please. Remembrance Day is past. Every day. Don't need to wear a poppy to do it. Think about our veterans. Think about those that fought for your right of life here in Canada, your freedom. Think about those that help you every day, whether it's those still fighting now, anyone in emergency services around you, hospitals, fire, police, everybody. Those that pick up your garbage, those that clean the roads, everybody. Think about those that help you have the life where you get to be free and true. And don't divide people. It's as simple as that. Because we all just want to have a good life. And just think about what he said and think about how you can be better and not be like what Don Cherry said and the mindset that he is setting out by saying these comments. Just think about the time when your family or friends or people you knew were you people, how that makes you feel and how that made them feel. And why would you ever want to do that again? Hockey's going to move on. We're still going to have a new Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday. It's going to be Ron McLean and somebody else. Days are going to go on. There's still going to be hate. It's still going to happen. But just be better. Don't be Don in this moment. Be better and be Canadian and welcome people to Canada. We're not even going to go to a Leafs game. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back. We'll talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. And just be better. Welcome people to Canada, I guess is the nicest way of saying this to end it off. Yeah, we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back here, ladies and gentlemen, for your Sports Break, broadcasting on 92.7 C Triple FM through the facilities here at Trent Radio in the beautiful Peterborough, Canada. Still -9 here and snowy and sunny. If you're with us before the break, of course, we had touched on the Don Cherry situation and what transpired over the weekend with that and yesterday. I said what I said. He said what he said. But the Maple Leafs this past weekend, of course, Friday night they played Philadelphia, lost in the shootout to Claude Giroux. Great slap shot. Kind of close to Freddie, though. Made me kind of uncomfortable. You see that. You would never see that in a game, I would imagine. Somebody throwing out a slap shot that close to the goalie, but won them the shootout. Can't really complain about that if you're them. And then Sunday night they played in Chicago. Lost 5-4. It was not close enough to 5-4. The fourth goal, was scored, I believe, in the last 10 seconds. It was a 1-goal game, but was it? Chicago scored 4 goals in the first period. The Leafs got 1, and then they scored 3 in the third period. But they just didn't look in it. Michael Hutchinson, of course, was starting because it was a back-to-back. So Freddie got Philadelphia, and then Michael Hutchinson got Chicago. 34 shots against, 5 goals, an 853 save percentage. Like, not good. I mean, the Leafs did drop 57 shots on Robin Lehner. He had a 930 save percentage, so yeah, like, it's just, if you're the Leafs, it was an okay weekend, but like, they're coming off 3 straight wins. I was gonna find out the schedule here. Yeah, like, they beat Philly, Las Vegas or LA, and then Vegas, and then lose 2 in a row. And then tomorrow night they play in New York at the island, on the island. John Tavares' first time back being a captain. Not that that really matters. Like, he's already been back once. They booed him. Then we had John Tavares Day, and we'll see how it goes with Tavares. His, like I said, first time back since being a captain. But in the Saturday night game, against Philadelphia, there was a bigger story than the game and the loss itself. Mitch Marner, at the start of the second period, it looked like he stepped on a stick. His ankle kind of gave. It looked like his knee kind of gave too, and he did not look good. He couldn't skate to the bench. He kind of crawled almost and got fished in, and then went out for a couple shifts and just couldn't get going. And he eventually got pulled. Not that he was happy about it. No one usually is. And then it was released Sunday morning, that he would be out at least 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. And that's not good. You hear a lot nowadays of ankle sprains, and especially high ankle sprains are almost worse than if you just break the ankle. Because if you just break the ankle, then it's a bone or like a something that can heal, like actual bone that can heal. When you high ankle sprains the muscle, and when you hurt that, you're in trouble because it doesn't bounce back as easily. This is something that's probably going to plague him the rest of the season. And he might not skate as well as he had before. I don't know that either, but this is what I've heard through broadcasts and stuff like that, is that this is something that's going to affect him for the season. And it's going to affect him the next 4 weeks at least. At least. And if you're the Leafs, just coming off the John Tavares injury, now you got Mitch Marner injured on his first year of like the 6-year, $65 million contract. Like, this is the worst time. He already has, he's been having a good start. I think he has 14 assists through Sunday's game, 18 points in as many games. He was having a really good season. By his standards, not the best, but a really good season. And then you have this, and it slows him down. And if you're the Leafs now, you've got to be resilient. And I guess they kind of, in their own way, they've started to be resilient. They waived Michael Hutchison, which, if you don't know, means they are sending him down to the minors, but because of his contract, they, put him on waivers so any team can claim him if they so choose. If they don't, he goes down to the minors. I don't think any team will choose him. He hasn't been that good to warrant being picked off waivers. In his sending down, they called up the minors goalie Casimir Kaskasuo. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's going to back up for Freddie, who this weekend they play Boston and then they play Pittsburgh. And I don't know how that's going to work. Who gets what, whether it's Freddie or Kaskasuo, I think it is. Kaskasuo. What team they get. Now, I was listening to last night's Overdrive on TSN, Brian Hayes, Jeff O'Neill, and Jamie McLennan. And they all kind of agreed that, maybe you talk to Freddie and be like, would you be willing to give us, a back-to-back, play both games, Freddie? And at first you kind of think of it. You're like, oh, you don't want your main goalie playing back-to-backs. But then you realize, no, they used to do this a lot. That's how hockey used to be, is you played both games as a goalie, and you would play all games of the year. Martin Brodeur used to play 65 games a season. And there was no question about whether that was a good idea or not. They just did it because he was the best goalie ever. Simple as that. He was the best goalie ever. And if you're Toronto, you play Boston on the 15th and then in Pittsburgh on the 16th. You don't play until the 19th against Vegas. So you have 3 days, or the 17th, 18th. 1 day of travel, 1 day of rest, and then game day. Why not play Freddie both games back to back? Because then he gets a break. They play the 19th, and they don't play till the 21st in Arizona, which is just kind of down the road. So again, you get that day off. You get, well, a travel day, but you get kind of a day off. And then the 23rd, and then they get 4 days off. So, like, you're getting days off. This is all on the road, all of these games. So there's that. That's what I would do, in my opinion. I would play Freddie on the back-to-back and be like, can you give us both? And he's a competitor, so I would imagine Freddie Anderson's going to say, yeah, I can do that for you. And it'll work perfect. Hopefully he can perform. The only thing is with the Leafs, you have to limit your shots that he faces in that first game against Boston. He can't give up 45 shots and then play the next night against Pittsburgh and hope he only faces 20. That's asking a lot. And Pittsburgh's a pretty good team. They're not the Pittsburgh of the past, but they're still a very good hockey team. I think they're in a wild card spot, or they're just on the edge. Oh, they're in the first wild card spot. Like, they're a playoff team. They won the Cup back-to-back not that long ago, 3 years ago now. If you're the Leafs, you put them out. In my opinion, you put them out against both games, and you play better defense, because that's what the Leafs need right now. As bad as Michael Hutchinson has been, it's still on the Leafs for not playing better defense. Michael Hutchinson, to be fair, has been pretty garbage. Couldn't stop a shot. He always seemed to give up 4 or 5, and if you're a team and you're playing behind a goalie that gives up 4 or 5, how are you supposed to be able to compete when he gives up 4 in the first period? The game's over in the first period. You just try to come back from that. And not many teams can, if any can. Tampa Bay last year maybe could have. They were one of the best teams. Of course, couldn't win in the playoffs, but I don't know if Kaskasuo is going to be this saving grace. There was people online comparing him to Jordan Binnington and the effect he had on St. Louis last year. I don't think that's going to happen. Like I said with St. Louis last year, earlier this season, that was a flash in the pan. I don't think we're ever going to see anything like that again. Same as calling up a rookie goaltender who's going to just shut down the NHL. I don't think we'll ever see that again. But if you're the Leafs, you have to play better defense, and it's as simple as that. And it'll be interesting to see in this absence of Marner how they perform, because they missed Tavares for a little bit of time. Now it's Marner for a month. So we might see Marner in the new year at the earliest, I would imagine. Or maybe a bit before that, but like not much. So you have to play the month of December without Mitch Marner, is the way I look at it. Because they say minimum 4 weeks. If they think he needs 5, but we could play him after 4, give him 5. Like, even if the team's down and not in the playoff spot right now, give him as much time as he needs so he can at least play really good in the playoffs. Because if you're the Leafs, that's what you're looking forward to right now, is the playoffs. But you still do have to get there. But you need him for the playoffs in the future. I know this is a season for now, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know who I'm asking when I say you know what I mean. You've got to protect that asset in Mitch Marner. And the minimum 4 weeks, good. He better take it. If he needs 5, give him 6. Like, I don't know. Protect the asset. And they still have a good team without him. Like, it's not like he's the only good player on the team. They have to do what Pittsburgh's done and performed without Evgeny Malkin. Now Pittsburgh has to perform without Sidney Crosby. He's missed 1 game with injury this season, the last game they played. That's what it's going to take for the Leafs, is to perform, and it's going to be on Tavares. It's going to be on Matthews and Nylander, who are hot right now. Anyone that was against Nylander could shove it right now. He's having a great season so far. Great stretch, I should say, not season. That might have been a stretch, but yeah, it's on the Leafs. You have to play better defense now. And it's not like Mitch Marner was a bum on defense. He was pretty good. He was on their first penalty kill. That's where I think he's going to be missed the most. Power play, they're going to miss his passing. Yeah, I would say. But like the penalty kill, he was dynamic. And if he got the puck, he could pass to anyone and get it out of there. And you get Kapanen going down the side, outside. Good night, Jim Kite. The Leafs had a good penalty kill. And now we're going to see what they can do without Mitch Marner. Like I said, they play tomorrow night on the island in New York. That's how you say it, on the island. I've learned. And we're going to see what they do in this little stretch here. And we'll see what they do with Freddie and everything. There's a lot going on with the Toronto Raptors right now. Not the Toronto Raptors, Toronto Maple Leafs. But yeah, it kind of ends with Mitch Marner and revolves around him. and I hope they can play without him. But I guess that's what we're going to see. We'll probably talk about that next week and for the next 4 weeks. I did mention the Raptors because it's a nice little segue. Like I said, this is at the top of the hour. This is their West Coast tour. They're playing Clippers. They played Clippers last night and lost. They played the Lakers on Sunday and won against LeBron. But that win on Sunday came at a cost. The win Friday. They played on Friday against New Orleans and won, but it came at a cost. Kyle Lowry diagnosed with a fracture of the distal phalanx. His left thumb. He'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks, which isn't good. And Serge Ibaka is out indefinitely to a sprained ankle. Again, it's another ankle injury that doesn't heal very well, and it affects you for the season. It's the same thumb Lowry had off-season surgery on to repair ligaments, which is even worse. So now they're down. They're starting point guard, and they're starting, I would say, center. I think Ibaka might play power forward. Either power forward or center, whatever one Gasol plays. So, yeah. And then they played great against the Lakers on
those guys
Saturday without these guys. And I've got a clip here of Nick Nurse just talking about crediting the bench for stepping up in the absence of guys like Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka. That's, of course, there's an advertisement, because why wouldn't there be an advertisement on a clip? But in missing Kawhi, like they have the whole season now, you realize that Lowry goes down. The next one to step up is Siakam. And I'll just play the quick clip here, and we'll get back to that. When it loads.
All those guys did a good job, right? There was I think everybody that stepped out there, they didn't only contribute, they played awesome, right? They were really playing hard. They were playing D. They were pushing the pace. They were making buckets. They were awesome.
Nick, what changed defensively in the second half? You hold them to 32% after the almost 57% efficiency.
Well, I'll give a credit to some of our bench guys, right? Our first unit went out there and was much more solid, right? I thought we were executing the schemes better, right? We were covering up some of the, when we were doubling Davis and doubling LeBron, we were covering up some of the easy stuff at the rim. And then that next crew came in there and they really bothered them. I thought Rondé bothered them, and Chris was protecting the rim, and they weren't giving up any second shots. It was just a good, hard playing group effort, really.
Play hockey.
So like I said, that was on Nick Nurse and talking about his team and how they faced against the Lakers and how the bench performed against LeBron and Anthony Davis without Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka. They did good, honestly. Like guys like Siakam stepped up. Chris Boucher, I think it's Chris Boucher. It's the rap. And Norman Powell stepped up. That's the mentality they have to have right now. Same as the Yankees did this year. Is next guy up steps up, and they tried to do that against the Clippers on yesterday, which would have been Monday. Quick start. But they just couldn't do it. They couldn't beat Kawhi. And yeah, it's a game, as a Raptors fan, you hope they'll beat Kawhi. You want them to win every game. But, it's that superstar that's no longer on the team. You just want to beat them, right? And Kawhi didn't look great in the game. He finished with 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. He also had 9 turnovers. So, he still won. But, it wasn't a great game for him. Lou Williams scored 21 points. Raptors lost 98-88. But yeah, they shut down Leonard. He just didn't have a great game. Siakam had 16 points and 10 rebounds. Norman Powell had 15 points. And then Fred VanVleet had 14 points. They had a 3-game winning streak going into the game. Snapped it. But the Clippers only shot 37%. But they dominated the Raptors in rebounding 66-38. They just didn't play. I guess the Raptors didn't rebound enough. I don't know. I think it was the injury that really hit them hard this game. Whereas in the Lakers game, they seemed like they were able to handle it and play resilient with their bench and face LeBron and Anthony Davis with this depleted lineup. But there's just something about Kawhi and the fear of Kawhi and the Raptors that they not fear of Kawhi and the Raptors, that was last year, but fear of Kawhi and what he can do with his teammates that maybe made the Raptors, I think, play not scared, but they kind of stood back a bit, and they went after him, but they didn't. And, it's just always that thought of, don't let Kawhi get the ball, don't let Kawhi pass the ball. And that's just what a superstar effect has. That's in every sport, the superstars. Connor McDavid gets it all the time. Connor McDavid scored a beautiful goal Saturday night that if anybody else scored, it would be a goal of the year candidate, but because it's Connor McDavid, we expect that. And with Kawhi, you expect greatness. That's why a night where he almost had a triple-double, I can easily say that Kawhi wasn't great that night. Kawhi was really, really good, but he wasn't great because the great Kawhi would have dropped 30 and had more assists, like this and that. It was still a really good game, and his team won, and that's all that matters, was that the Clippers won and the Raptors didn't. And I'm sure that's all Kawhi wants. Kawhi knows that every time Toronto comes into town from now on, or anytime he goes to Toronto from now on, he's going to be asked about his time there, how he is moving on from that, this and that. And it's kind of tied to it. That's just not who he is, though. He doesn't like being the center of attention in off-court stuff, but that's what Canada brings him. It was interesting in the first 2 minutes. OG Anunoby got poked in the right eye by Leonard while scrambling for a rebound. He didn't return. Probably would have been a huge difference maker for the Raptors in that game. But yeah, it didn't work out for the Raptors. Hopefully Anunoby's okay. But the Raptors play next Wednesday, or play their next game is on Wednesday against Portland. The 4 to 5 road games. This is one of their longest trips of the season on the road. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm yawning now. It's almost 10 o'clock in the morning. But for the Raptors, season's not going too bad. You miss Kawhi. I personally miss Kawhi a lot. That's why I haven't watched a lot of Raptors games, because you're like, where's 2? Get 2 the ball. And then you realize 2 is in LA with LeBron, but on a different team. I guess you could say he's in LA with Paul George. Might be a better way of saying it. But yeah, I miss Kawhi, and I'm sure a lot of Raptors fans do. Raptors don't look like it yet. When they get to the playoffs, we'll see how they do without Kawhi. Now in Toronto, with the Toronto Blue Jays, we're really wrapping up here. There's really not much, I'll be honest, going on with the Blue Jays. There was a move made last week. I shouldn't say a big move. Was the Blue Jays essentially cut ties with their 2015 and 2016 playoff years, in that they outrighted Devin Travis and Ryan Tepera to the minors, which essentially means any players that were on the Blue Jays rosters in 2015 or 2016 when they made the playoffs and made consecutive ALCSs are no longer Toronto Blue Jays, as both Ryan Tepera and Devin Travis have declined going to AAA and instead have decided to go to free agency. If you're like Devin Travis, didn't play in all of 2019. He barely played at all. He played 100. I shouldn't say barely played at all. In 2018, he played 103 games. But he played great in 15 and 16, but it just kept going down for Devin Travis. Of course, he joined the team in 2014 after a trade with Detroit. He finished Toronto with a .274 batting average and 35 home runs in 316 games. But if you look in 15, that's 6 seasons, right? 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 5 seasons. As much as everyone loves listening to me do math on air, he played 316 games, and 5 times 162 is 800. So he didn't even play half the games in those years. And it sucked to see, because he was a really good player, and it looked like he wanted to play in Toronto. But he just, the injury, I think, really hurt him. Well, believe it or not, because it's an injury, it hurt him. But he just never got to full health and was never ready to play for the Blue Jays. We've talked a lot this morning about different teams. But yeah, the Blue Jays, it's cutting ties with old years. And for a lot of fans that started watching then, they maybe don't recognize some of the names now. But there's a lot of good players coming that they'll start to recognize in Vlad Jr., Biggio, and Bichette. Speaking of Vlad Jr., if you follow him on Instagram, or Lourdes Gurriel Jr. on Instagram, you've noticed that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is already working out this offseason to get ready for his sophomore season. Many people, of course, called out Vlad for his size and stature into the season and the out of the season, saying that he wasn't, for a 20-year-old, they weren't happy with it. how much he weighed and this and that, and he didn't think he'd be mobile enough. But he looks good on this Instagram. He looks slimmer. He's been working out, which is great to see, because you always hope for the best for your athletes in Toronto. I guess Ross Atkins was down there, met with Vladdy I think he's in Dunedin, and said that he was blown away. He looks completely different. He's been pushing himself harder than ever. And I know this is just the beginning of the offseason, but like if this sets the tone and he keeps doing it and breaking where he's at, I think we're going to have a heck of a player next year for the Blue Jays, because like they kept sitting him out of big games and like this and that, and I don't think you should do that with a 20-year-old. It looks really bad if a 20-year-old can't play back-to-back, like can't play 4 games in a row, but then you're going to put out guys like Rowdy Tellez and Randall Grichuk to play these games. I get one of them is a superstar, your franchise guy, but it is also baseball, and he's played baseball forever, is the way I see it. But yeah, I don't know. Like for Vlad, it's good to see him working out, and it's great that he's doing this, because you would just want to see him do good. And I think this definitely helps with people talking bad about him, and I hope that shuts that down if he comes into the season looking really good. Because last year, that was the whole talking point around Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is, well, I don't think he's very well conditioned. And I think that bothered a lot of people. But he looks good so far. The Blue Jays have a lot of moves to make this offseason, bringing in some starting pitching. It's not going to be Garrett Cole. Actually, I've got a clip here. It's Mark Shapiro talking about the Blue Jays' interest in Garrett Cole and what that means for the rest of their free agency plans.
Mark, looking towards the 2020 iteration of our Toronto Blue Jays, there's under $40 million committed to payroll as of now. So I need to know, what's your best offer for Garrett Cole going to be?
Actually, I think you need to give us a little proposal there. So we're going to be one of many people interested in recognizing he's certainly a very rare talent to be available in free agency. And last time we kind of tried to guess what the free agent landscape's going to look like. There's almost every team out there is looking for starting pitching, which is not surprising, and certainly every team could use a number one starter. So, I think we're going to have to be aggressive on every level of the free agent starting pitcher landscape, and recognize that players do, as they go into a situation, they have all of the things that are important to them. They look at geography, they look at how that aligns with their personal situation, their family. They look at spring training and where that location is. They look at competitiveness of team. They look at division and the landscape.
And it goes on and on. Essentially, just saying, like Mark Shapiro saying, "Oh, we'll be in on Garrett Cole, so don't you worry." But there's no chance the Blue Jays are going to get Garrett Cole. They're going to settle for other starters. Garrett Cole wants to win. He's not going to come to Toronto because they're not going to win yet. Soon down the road they will, but not yet. Lots to look forward in the Blue Jays offseason. Lots to look forward if you're a Leafs fan. But that is all the time we have today for your Sports Break, broadcasted on 92.7 C Triple FM through the facilities here at Trent Radio in the beautiful Peterborough, Canada. If you've missed previous shows, you can catch up on Twitter at SportsBreakTR. On Twitter, you can find a link to my Movember. Donate, help men's health, help save men dying young. We'll be back next Tuesday at 9 a.m. for another show where we'll talk about the NHL season and the MLB off-season. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, to check your smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, and have a good day.